It's said that there's over 8,000 Roman milestones that remain today in what was the entire Roman Empire. But here in Britain, only 95 have ever been found, with maybe a dozen more recorded but now lost. Of those 95, the vast majority are in museums, which is great, but only 95. Surely there's more than that. So where are the Roman milestones, and is it possible to find one? The vast majority of my life I've been walking and cycling old routes, a fascination with the landscape and how it shaped the lives of those that walked it before me. Lately I've been wondering how I should spend my time. I'm not getting any younger. Now, don't get me wrong, I love this filmmaking journey. I feel like I'm doing my bit for sure, but what if I discovered something? What if I found something that no one had recognised before me? And what if that discovery offered something to this community? Something that would leave my mark on the world? You see, the meaning of life is to score a victory for humanity, however small that may be. So let's go find a Roman milestone. This is Salisbury Plain, and I'm now walking part of a 250-year-old turnpike road. Well, actually that is debated, but either way it's a 250-year-old road. Now this abandoned route went from Bath to Salisbury. It was called the Old Slow Coach. Now just up ahead I'm expecting to find an old milestone. If we look at the old maps, well, it should tell us that Bath was in that direction, 23 miles, and ahead of us in that direction would have been Sarum or Salisbury at 13 miles. That's a bit of a muddy trek. Here it is, look at this. Okay, so can't see any writing on this side, but if we have a look around here to the back, we can see on this 250-year-old turnpike milestone we've got 13 from Sarum. I can't really make out the rest, but it should say 23 from Bath. Great stuff. Well, we found this turnpike milestone. Now, shouldn't this be relatively easy for the Roman milestone? I presume they're on all the old maps, just like this one, and they're everywhere. In fact, with 10,000 miles of Roman roads in the UK, in theory, maybe, just maybe, there were 10,000 Roman milestones. So the only other thing we need to consider is the distance of a Roman mile. You see, today's mile is 1,609.34 metres. Now the Romans had that down to 1,000 milli, 1,000 paces. Now that equates to 1,480 metres, so slightly less. Let's factor that in, let's crack on and find some Roman milestones. Okay, so I gathered a whole bunch of images, or at least sketches of Roman milestones, and it turns out we have quite a range of shapes and sizes to consider, anything from upright pillars to pillow-shaped rectangular rocks. And that potentially makes things a little bit trickier. We'll come back to that shortly. Now I've travelled to a place near Caliva Atrebatum, a major Roman settlement. Now, that settlement is mentioned 3 or 4 times in what's called the Antonine itineraries, which are like route maps. They guide you from town to town. There's very little evidence that remains sort of around today that can help us with the journey, but I think the Antonine itineraries might well be one of them. Now, Caliva Atrebatum has 5 major routes heading off in each direction, and lo and behold, we have a potential milestone on the OS map. It's marked IMP, short for Imperator. Okay, we're just about here on site, about 100 yards or so away. It's on a main road. Now, I don't claim to have found this one because it does appear on a map, but judging by the pictures and that I've seen and Google Images, well, it looks like we're in for quite a treat. Okay, here it is. Now, this is the first Roman milestone I've ever seen in situ. This is a big tick for me, But something's not quite right, because, well, firstly, we aren't near a Roman road. The nearest road is maybe 800 metres north of here, and more importantly, we have no Latin inscriptions on this one, absolutely no indication this was ever Roman. So what exactly is going on here? It turns out that antiquarian William Stukeley decided that this was indeed Roman, despite the fact that it had no Roman inscriptions and it's not on a Roman road quite some distance from one. OS got excited back in 1838 and stuck it on the map, and it remains there to this day. So now we know what we're looking for, pretty much anything at all, shape and size wise. Let's knuckle down. What's next in this quest? Okay, so before we start hunting on the ground, because yes, I am hunting on the ground shortly, let's have a look at one that was found in North West Hampshire in a ditch by the side of a country road. Literally just here, well, on the edge of the field there, it was found next to a Roman villa. Now that's great because it's safely now in Winchester Museum and we have an image of it, so we know exactly what we're looking for when we're trying to identify a Roman milestone. Kind of. Now the issue we have here is that not only does this Roman milestone not contain any miles, it's also 3 miles or so from the nearest Roman road. Now that's not to say that there weren't any miles on it, and it's also not to say that it wasn't moved at some point, but being found next to a villa, you'd assume it was in situ. It does raise a few question marks. Right, I think if I'm going to start taking this seriously, I need to do 2 things, both of which revolve around a map. I love a good map, and the goal remains to find a Roman milestone. So let's plot every Roman milestone on a map, all those that have been found in this country. These are taken from the RIB database, the Roman inscriptions. Now I have plotted them across the entire country in green to indicate their found location. Okay, there aren't that many. Right, let's focus down south, my immediate sort of travel distance, and let's plot as well the major Roman settlements. I'll put those in a kind of a house shape in purple. Now secondly, if I find the centre of the Roman towns or settlements, I can then plot every 1,480 metres along a Roman road and find the spot where the Roman milestones should have been. Now I say the centre of the Roman towns as opposed to the gates for a specific reason. I'll come back to that later. Let's get plotting. Let's get hedge diving. There's probably only about 2 or 3 decent studies or books to help you sort of interpret Roman milestones, certainly in this country. There's a 1975 study done on the geology of the stones, which is great. There's also another study done on African milestones. That was more about what sort of road you were on, military road or more of a civilian Roman road built a bit later. A 2011 study by the Milestone Society. That was great because it gave a whole essence of the Roman milestones that had been found. Again, 95 isn't a huge data sample, so one of the conclusions he drew was the large rounded pillar type ones, well, they'd have been on the main roads, and the smaller rectangular ones sort of led us to believe that they were on minor roads or near villas or just anywhere. Okay, so 95 milestones have been found in this country in some form or another. The odds seem to be against us. The Romans were here for over 350 years or so, and to top all that off, a quarter of those 95 stones, well, they were found within 20 miles of Hadrian's wall. Now, speaking of Hadrian, in this country at least, it's possible that he was the person responsible for their introduction. Strange notion, but no examples of Roman milestones dating prior to Hadrian have been found. Absolutely nothing at all. This would have been the exact spot. And with that in mind, only 8 of those 95 Roman milestones were dated prior to 240 AD. Now, the Roman milestones were often reused or recut, upturned, cut, flat, started again. Next, and something else worth considering too as we search. Well, only 8 of the 95 Roman milestones actually have miles on them. Now, that's not to say they didn't have Roman milestones on them. Maybe it was carved off at some point, or perhaps even painted on, but only 8 were used as milestones potentially. Nothing here. Impression this is completely futile. And then I remembered something. A river, a ford, a town close to a main road, an old route, a settlement. North of the Lead Road in Wiltshire, I've seen something that caught my eye. Someone had mentioned something to me. A stone by a ford? Have I inadvertently known about a stone all along? Was that a Roman milestone? So I find myself back on this route. We've got Warminster just that way there, we've got Salisbury over there, and the A36 runs between them. This route, however, this small road here, runs perpendicular to that, and it starts way up on Nook Camp. There are lots of Roman finds, all relating to sort of grain production. Now, I believe this to be a tertiary or secondary Roman route, therefore it went all the way that way up onto the Lead Road. Now, just down there is a ford, and there was a stone when we came here before. I just discarded it, didn't even think anything of it. But now I've been researching all of this so much, maybe, just maybe, this time I know what I'm looking for. Now, there's a lot more water now than there was when we came here last time. It's been a very wet winter. None of this was underwater last time, so we may or may not find that our stone is completely buried. I mean, it's pillared shaped. Now, we've got 2 distinctive types of Roman milestones. We've got pillar ones. Now, they were reputed to be on the main roads according to one particular source, whereas the more rectangular ones, well, they were potentially on just sort of villas and tertiary routes. So if it was going to be a milestone here, you'd expect it to be rectangular, but nevertheless, this is bigger than I ever remembered. This is quite significant. So I took a couple of pictures and consulted some archaeologists. Unfortunately, it seems the general consensus is this is potentially a stone from a mill, or perhaps even a facade on a building long since discarded. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get back to the drawing board. The search continues. Okay, so today I didn't find a Roman milestone, and if I'm honest, probably never thought I was going to, but perhaps in some ways this has helped me understand a lot more about Roman milestones, their purpose. The milestones were perhaps that way of encouraging allegiance to whatever emperor was in the reign at the time. Here in Britain, thousands of miles from Rome, those stones would act as a great way of controlling the local population, letting them know who really is boss. To the glory of Emperor Whitewick, may his reign last forever. Oh, and Winchester's 10 miles that way, mate. And of course, I've started that map, so maybe, just maybe, there'll be at some point a part 2. I'm sure if I keep searching, then something will come up. I've been Paul. I hope you've enjoyed my adventure as much as I have. Frankly, it's been a real learning curve, as always. I'll see you this time next week. Right, keep walking.